Sure. Chuck, you're up. How's it going, Dan?
Not bad, Neil.
Hi, I'm Chuck. Thank you for coming.
Sure. Nice to meet you.
Debate among the candidates for the 91st State Congressional District seat. I'm Chuck Stan. Oh. Yep. Oh, yeah, there we go. How's that? Let me start over again. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for coming to this debate among the candidates for the 91st State Congressional District seat. I'm Chuck Stangor, publisher of Gettysburg Connection. The debate is sponsored by Gettysburg Connection and the Gettysburg College Eisenhower Institute, Public Policy Program, and Political Science Department. May we please stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's great to be here with you tonight and to welcome you all on this one of our first cold nights of the year. When I started Gettysburg Connection 4 years ago, this is exactly the kind of event that I hoped we would someday sponsor. And I very much thank our editor, Alex Hayes, for proposing the idea and for agreeing to be the moderator. Tonight, we have a cross-section of people from across the county who are all here for the same reason, which is to share our opinions and inform our personal choices. There's nothing more important or more American than that. We live in a great community, and that becomes most obvious when we work together. We're all here because we believe in the power of civil discourse and the importance of free and fair elections. I want to thank Marty Qually, Neil Belliveau, and Dan Moul for being here, Annie Dowds and Gettysburg College for making it all possible, and community media for making a video that we can share later. At this point, I'm going to turn the program over to Molly Hoffman and Drew Lemon, co-presidents of the Gettysburg College Public Policy Student Council. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to the Pennsylvania House District 91st Congressional Debate. My name is Andrew Lemon, and I'm the co-president of the Public Policy Student Council, here with my co-chair, Molly Hoffman. Tonight's event was a long time in the making, and we are thrilled to welcome you all to Gettysburg College to host this exciting event discussing the future of Pennsylvania politics. I would like to take a moment to recognize the organizations that helped to make this event possible. On behalf of the Gettysburg College Public Policy Department, the Political Science Department, and the Gettysburg Connection as our debate sponsors this evening, we are thrilled to welcome you to tonight's event. We would also like to extend our debt of gratitude to the Gettysburg College Campus Safety for providing security at tonight's event. Additionally, I would like to extend our gratitude to all members of the Public Policy Student Council, our Department Chair, Ann Dowds, as well as Chuck Stanger from the Gettysburg Connection. Also, we want to share a special thanks to Alex Hayes for moderating tonight's event.
Here at Gettysburg College, the Public Policy Student Council is a student-led organization that seeks to promote campus and community engagement through civil discourse in coordination with the Public Policy Department. The Public Policy Student Council hopes that tonight's event will be both engaging and informative. This is an opportunity to learn more about the positions that each candidate takes to make an informed decision on Election Day on November 8th. It's with great pleasure that I now turn it over to Alex Hayes, our moderator for the evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Chuck, Molly, and Drew for the introduction. I am Alex Hayes from the Gettysburg Connection. The Gettysburg Connection is a grassroots publication with the goal of maintaining open news access for all members of this community, regardless of income. I'm going to just give you a short rundown on how the night's going to play out. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement before we move on to the questions. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes to answer the questions. The candidates will take turns being the first one to answer the questions. If a candidate is specifically mentioned by another candidate, the candidate will get a 1-minute rebuttal. The candidates received these rules in advance of tonight, but they did not receive the questions. So the rules are out there. As a rule of thumb, I ask that all candidates be very respectful to one another. Interrupting another candidate will not be tolerated. I am thrilled to see so many members of the public here tonight. This is great. Civil dialogue is an important part of our election process, and sadly, I believe it is lacking very much in our culture. These 3 men agreeing to be here and you coming to hear them is a bright spot in our county. That said, your role is to listen. We want a smooth, productive debate. An outburst of any kind, including clapping, will not be tolerated. We do have campus security. I really don't want to use them, so let's behave, folks. Please. No clapping, no signs, no hooting and hollering. Just please, we are here to listen to the 3 men who have taken the time to run for the 91st District in the State House of Pennsylvania, and we really want to hear what they have to say. And no offense, I don't really care what you have to say. So, without further ado, we are going to move on to our opening remarks. Mr. Neil Belliveau, we'll start with you.
Oh boy, okay. Hello, my name is Neil Belliveau, Libertarian running for state representative in District 91. First,
Neil, can you please speak into the microphone?
Oh, is that? I decided to run because, is that better?
No, it's not.
It's not on.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yes, the mics are off, folks.
There we go.
Speak, and please restart Neil's time. Thank you.
All right.
Until the individual candidates speak.
Yeah, leave them off until they speak.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want us to turn them on and off? Or?
Yes, please turn them on and off. That way, if you burp or anything, we don't hear it.
All right.
It's not the burping I was worried about.
I'll start again. Hello, my name is Neil Belliveau, Libertarian running for state representative in District 91. I first want to thank everyone for coming out, including the moderators and sponsors of this town hall. I decided to run because we as Pennsylvanians are experiencing increased taxes, uncontrolled spending, and expanding role of government in our daily lives. I want to promote more libertarian ideas in our community. So for several months, I collected signatures and talked to hundreds of people who are open to change and sick of the current political landscape. The number one issue I talk to people about in Pennsylvania is that Pennsylvania is only one of 10 states to operate with a full-time legislature, which also happens to be one of the least productive, as reported by Spotlight PA in 2019. Changing to part-time would allow the Commonwealth to cut the compensation in half, currently at over $90,000 annually, soon to be $100,000 annually, saving taxpayers over $9 million. Pennsylvanians are also dealing with record inflation, yet our politician approved a budget that increased spending by over 10% in July. Soon, our legislatures will have to decide to raise taxes or cut spending. When it comes time, do you think they'll cut spending? I don't. The economist and author Thomas Sowell once said, "Elections should be held on April 16th, the day after we pay our income taxes." That is one of the few things that might discourage politicians from overtaxing and overspending. Out of the 3 of us on stage, you can count on Libertarian to hold the line against taxes, fight to cut wasteful spending. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belliveau. Mr. Qually, your opening remarks, please.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. For those who I haven't met, I am Marty Qually. I grew up about a mile from here. My first job was here at the Gettysburg College dining hall. My kids are texting me right now. I started a catering company here in this community. I proposed to my wife on the steps of Penn Hall here on campus. And Elizabeth and I have raised our children here. And I've been honored to serve you as a county commissioner. Basically, this community has become my life. I love serving you as a county commissioner, but we need Harrisburg to do better, and I believe I can help. On a good day, Harrisburg is frustrating. On a bad day, Harrisburg is a dumpster fire. Recent years have been especially troublesome due to unnecessary partisan division. This year, the incumbent and his leadership have proposed a constitutional amendment to diminish the rights of women. His vote to remove choice isn't just about abortion. It is a vote to take away the most basic human right from women, the right to control your own body. He supports a constitutional amendment to change the voting age from 18 to 21 years old, meaning if you're 18, you can carry a gun, you can serve your country in the armed forces, you can work and pay taxes, but you can't vote. Lastly, just days after the January 6th insurrection, he co-sponsored a resolution to declare the 2020 election invalid and give the state legislature authority to pick electors and thus decide the president, clearly against the will of the people. When you vote on November 8th, remember these things. Don't think about your party or your team when you go to vote this year. Think about your community. Think about who you would want to best represent you and get the job done. Thank you for coming out tonight, and I respectfully ask for your vote for state representative.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qually. Mr. Moul.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't know we were going to go into attack mode right off the bat, but looks like that's the direction we want to go tonight. I was kind of hoping to keep it a little bit more civil than to just be juggling flaming chainsaws, if you will. I'm going to go down just a little bit different road, and since everyone in this room, I've been doing this 16 years now, if anyone in this room doesn't know who I am and what I stand for, either you're new to our community and welcome to Gettysburg, or you haven't been paying much attention, because I'm in the paper just about every week with everything that I'm doing. Speaking of the newspaper, I was very disappointed. Normally, I can allow things to roll right off my back. I've grown a very thick skin over the years. But two of the letters to the editor kind of struck home. One was from my friend Steve Niebler, who I worked with very closely while he was the director of the Office of Aging, and he would come into our office, and he told me straight up front, he's a liberal, and that's fine, I'm okay with that. We're here for the senior citizens, this isn't politics. And every time he'd leave, shake hands, we're good to go. You guys are doing a good job, and I appreciate you helping out. We are always part of the senior fair, even to this day. And then he threw me under the bus. So which was it? Were you lying to me before? Or are you lying now? I don't know. He wants to help Marty, that's fine. But you don't need to trash me to do it. Another man by the name of Leon Reed finishes his article with, Moul is a prototype of a do-nothing politician. He used to claim the slender legislative record was due to his lack of seniority, but now that he is a committee chair, nothing really has changed. In addition, Moul has now become a dependable MAGA vote. When did making America great become a bad thing? We all want to make America great. So that being said, just so you know what I've been up to, since certain people want to say things about me when they don't even know me, never met me, in order to help my opponent, rather than talking him up, they want to trash me. I recently, as you know, I'm the chairman of agriculture in Pennsylvania.
Hey, Dan, your 2 minutes is up. Thank you.
Thank you for not letting me finish this.
Oh.
But that's all right. Go ahead, I get it.
All right, we're going to move on to questions. I need to thank the public one more time. You made my job easy. The Gettysburg Connection asked readers what they would ask. These candidates have given a chance, and your response was strong. So most of these questions are reader submitted. The first one is 2/3 of the roads in Pennsylvania are maintained by townships. The majority of revenue is from the liquid fuels tax. Because of better gas mileage, that fund is declining. Do you support dedicated funding of roads by adding a tax or fee on electronic charging stations or increasing rental car fee? Mr. Qually, we'll start with you.
That was a long question, and it's absolutely right. One of the fundamental flaws with the fuel tax is that you have hybrid cars and electric cars now, and with people working more from home, remotely, it is becoming a challenge. As far as charging stations, I haven't really looked into that as a fee for those. It does make sense. It would help to, if you're using the roads and you're causing an impact, it helps if you're the ones paying for it. One of the challenges I have, especially with rural roads and bridges, is that the current formula, we're sending a lot of our money to the cities. I want to work on formulas and local authority so that local money stays locally.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul.
We sent a bill over to the Senate about 2 years ago that would increase the registration fee in Pennsylvania on hybrid and all-electric vehicles, and it stalled in the Senate, didn't go anywhere. This might come to a shock as to most of you, but I actually drive an electric vehicle, so I do understand that we do need to think about the future when more and more of these vehicles are coming on board. I personally think it's the right direction to go, not necessarily for fossil fuels. It's just smart. It's just the smart way to go. That's why I bought one. But we do have to think about it because the revenues are going down because less fuel is being purchased. Years ago, when tractor trailers were getting 5 and 6 miles a gallon, and you gotta keep in mind, we charge fuel tax on the amount of gallons sold in Pennsylvania, not miles driven. Years ago, tractor trailers got 5, 10 miles a gallon at best. Now they're getting 15. So you got twice as many vehicles running the roads using the same amount of fuel as they did 20 years ago. Cars are the same way. We now have cars that used to get 12, 15 miles a gallon. Now they're getting 30. So we've got twice as many vehicles using the same amount of fuel. We have to figure it out. We've been doing our best to try and figure it out. I was one of the votes, and I got drug under the bus by quite a few people. I voted for the last fuel tax increase. I took a whooping for it. I can tell you to raise the fuel taxes again today, you'd have a hard time getting that vote to go through on either side of the aisle in Harrisburg.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. Mr. Belliveau.
So Pennsylvania has one of the highest gas taxes in the country. And we got to look at that and say, where's all that money going? Over 40% of it is being siphoned off into the state police and other agencies, 40%. According to the PA Constitution, all that money is supposed to go to road and bridge maintenance. Why have the legislatures decided to fund that money elsewhere? If all that money was kept the way it's supposed to be following the PA Constitution, you wouldn't have as many problems with the roads as we have now. I would support tolling for a lot of our roads because, people should use on a use case basis. The money that collects from tolls can fix those roads. If we can get the spending under control that is for the gas tax, we can fund those lower end rural roads.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belliveau. Next question. Property taxes are a major stressor for many homeowners. The school property tax is the largest of the 3 property taxes, the others being county and municipality. Many school superintendents and directors claim their hands are tied because of the state mandates and limited funding. Do you believe this is true? And if so, how can the states work with local governments to provide property tax relief? Mr. Moul.
We do have a property tax relief fund in Pennsylvania. We use that to assist senior citizens with a lower income. So if you're a senior citizen that makes $100,000 a year, chances are you won't qualify. But there are thresholds. My staff handles all those property tax rent rebate programs in our office. And so it's not as though we don't help. The state does put money in there. A lot of it's supposed to, or a lot of it does come out of the gaming funds. It goes into the property tax relief fund, which is where that money comes from. As far as do we want the state to pay more of the school taxes? That seems to be everybody's wish list. The Commonwealth ought to pay that. Well, where's the Commonwealth supposed to get the money? Do we tax you more? We would have to raise maybe your earned income tax. To raise sales tax, for every point that you go up, you generate about $2 billion, and it's a declining increase. So every time you raise it, you have less sales, or more people will go elsewhere, either out of state or online to do their purchasing because they can save that tax money, and that's a real hit in the chin to the Pennsylvania taxpayers. So where do you get the money to cover it? Keep in mind, right now, our budget's about $40 billion. What we put into education is about 15. So about a third of every dollar coming into the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania right now is going into education. About 1/3 of all taxes collected go into education. Where do we get money to put more money into property tax relief? I'm all for it. Just tell me where to get the money.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. Mr. Belliveau.
So 1/3 of property taxes go to education. PA ranks 8th in the country in student funding. And the results are not improving. We need to figure out where that money is going and how it's being spent. You know, our administrators getting a lot of the money, bureaucrats. We need to make sure that the money is going to the students, and we need to lower education costs by having a more market-based approach, allowing not just government schools, private schools, charter schools, allowing the competition and to lower those prices. You know, back in the day, I believe when gambling was allowed in Pennsylvania, a lot of people talked about that funding to go towards education. As far as I understand, that money is not going towards education. It's being spent elsewhere. We need to get our spending under control and get these programs funding and not wasteful spending.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qually.
So school funding with property taxes, the funding coming in is only a part of the problem. The other part of the problem that actually precedes it to a large degree is failed policies. And this is at every level. So at the federal government, for example, you have mandates on special education, but they don't fund it. They pass it down to the states. At the state level, three of the challenges you have are expensive standardized testing that are proving more and more frequently to be useless, that there are other ways to judge whether or not a school is successful. And then cyber school and charter school. Now, there are some good cyber schools and good charter schools out there, but the rules are disadvantaging our schools. It is making it more and more expensive to do the same job. So if we fix these failed policies, it'll improve the revenue stream. And I think it is possible, like many other states, to freeze school property taxes for seniors. One of the key things we have to start doing, though, and the federal government and Harrisburg are reticent to do this, is to give control to local governments. I believe that county commissioners can work with school districts to develop revenue streams locally that can make more sense than property tax. A one-size-fits-all approach to Pennsylvania cannot work. We need to be putting control down at a local level.
Thank you very much. Next question. The COVID-19 pandemic raised a series of questions regarding the rights of the states and private businesses to impose medical requirements on the public. What will your approach to policymaking be related to these issues? Mr. Belliveau, we'll start with you.
The lockdowns during COVID was probably one of the greatest human tragedies in our lifetime. All the studies that are coming out now are showing we've lost so much kids' lives, learning, gaining weight, and it's just a total disaster. We need to empower our local government and businesses to make and individuals to make the best choice for them as possible. It's not about a top-down approach. We saw what happened with the whole government approach to this, muffing everything from the vaccine rollout to telling people about masks, and it was horrible. So.
Thank you very much. Mr. Qually, your answer, please.
Well, number one, I hope we never have to go through that again. Making those decisions of balancing personal responsibility and public safety is a massive challenge for elected officials. The truth is, the number one priority of elected officials is the health and safety of the residents. And if your residents are dying, you have to come up with a solution. Having said that, quite frankly, I don't think our legislature, I don't think the governor, I don't think we were ready. We were not ready for a pandemic of this size to come down. And they were slow to react in some cases, and they did overreact in some cases. I think a large part of this is personal responsibility. It is your body. You have to make decisions about how to keep yourself safe. You have to make decisions on how to keep your family safe, your friends, your coworkers. So was a top-down approach the best solution? I'm not sure. Quite frankly, I think in between there were some good solutions, but the challenge we had as a community was not everyone actually believed in the science. We've got to get to a point where we believe people who are specialists in these areas. We believe in the people who make our cars, that they no longer explode on us, but we didn't want to believe doctors, people who we trust, every time we go to get medicine. For this issue, it became politicized and it became dangerous. So I think there is some responsibility on the government and individuals to figure out how to solve, hopefully not another pandemic, but the next healthcare crisis.
Thank you very much. Finally, Mr. Moul.
Yeah, I'd say the COVID pandemic was handled about as wrong as anything could possibly be handled. When you have elected officials that really don't know a thing about medicine, they're not scientists. I would never try to make a medical decision for anybody. This is one case a little bit, I'm going to agree with my opponent here, is people should be responsible for themselves, gather as much information as you can, but don't let a governor lock you down, put you out of business, and throw COVID-sick seniors into nursing homes where 8,000 senior citizens in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania came to a premature death because of that stunt. It's a prime example that we need to learn from that should never, ever happen again. You should let your doctor and the experts guide you through this, not politicians. That's the lesson to learn. Keeping kids out of school the way they did. Every study I've seen, everything I have read, kids fell way behind on this one. I don't know if they will ever get it back. I hope that they do. But it's a glaring example of what not to do in a pandemic situation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. Next question. Do you think the 2020 presidential election was free and fair? Mr. Qually, we'll start with you.
Yes, I do.
Mr. Moul.
I'll put it to you this way. I went to Trump rallies. I went to one in Lancaster where about 30,000 people showed up on a rainy Thursday afternoon. When you compare that to a gentleman that never really came out of his basement and talked to a dozen cars when he did.
Folks, please allow him to finish.
I only can tell you what I saw on TV. I mean, it's just what was on the news. You got to deny what my lying eyes. You know, I got to say were my lying eyes that saw that. But I had a hard time digesting how one man can draw 30,000 people on a rainy day and the other guy doesn't even go out on the trail and he wins. And then I see, and there's no way to prove this, I see government footage of people going up to drop boxes, which, by the way, are totally illegal. They are nowhere. You say bullshit, sir?
Folks,
Guys,
we have campus security. We'll use them. Please allow Mr. Moul to finish. Thank you.
They will be found nowhere within our election code. I challenge anybody. Here's the Constitution right here. I challenge anybody to find a drop box written in our election code in the Constitution. Anybody in this room wants to see it, please show it to me. They are not legal, and we have government footage from cameras that are mounted on government buildings with people walking up to drop boxes at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning with handfuls of ballots and shoving them in. It's not my lying eyes. Saw it with my own eyes. I saw the footage. I saw where it came from. So, can I say that the election was won by Donald Trump or was it won by Joe Biden? Who's ever going to know? Me personally, I have to take it for what it is, and we have to live through it and get through it. And that's all there is to it. Until somebody comes up with ironclad proof, this is the way it is. And that's where I'm at. Do I like the outcome? No, of course not. Can I change it? Of course not. Did I see any irrefutable proof? Nope. And until I do, this is just the way it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. Finally, Mr. Belliveau.
Free and fair, yes, for the most part. There's always shady stuff going on. You see people get arrested after the fact for whatever. But what isn't fair is the way Republicans and Democrats treat third-party candidates and push them off the ballot, keep them out of debating. I appreciate being involved here, and not allowing us to gain traction. Every corner, they fight us down. Libertarians, Greens, Keystones, whatever third party, you treat it as the third-rate citizen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next question. You all come to this debate tonight, you all come to this race with a certain set of qualifications and a certain set of accomplishments. So our next question is, what do you think your greatest accomplishment is in your either career, mostly career, or public service life? And Mr. Moul, we'll start with you.
My greatest accomplishment really doesn't have anything to do with legislation. I've my own personal, I think I'm up to about 16, maybe 18 pieces that I've had signed into law. but I wouldn't call any particular one of those my greatest accomplishment. My greatest accomplishment was I ran into an older woman, not elderly, who was trying desperately to get her granddaughter back that was landed in foster care up near St. Mary's, Pennsylvania, Du Bois, up in the Du Bois area. And that poor child, her father was killed in an accident, and that poor child landed in foster care, and they were giving her a very difficult time getting that child back or getting to even visit with that child. She wanted her granddaughter because she had no one. She hadn't seen her in over 2 years since she was 5. She is now 7. She got a hold of me by accident. It's a longer story. I know I don't have time to get into it, but I made a call. And at that time, I was vice chair of Children and Youth, and I literally had to threaten the Children and Youth Agency in that county. I literally took that woman to the courthouse. I literally helped her get that child to live with her. They live in Hanover. She then adopted that child, and that child is now a flourishing 17-year-old. That's my greatest accomplishment as a legislator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. Mr. Belliveau.
So, as probably figured out, I'm not a politician, as cliche as that is. I'm a business owner. I'm an Eagle Scout, and I'm up here wanting to give representation to all the libertarians and everyone else who is sick of the two major political parties. My biggest concern is everyone's freedom. Not my freedom, everyone's freedom. And that is why I got involved in politics and started Adams County Libertarian Party, to make a difference and show people there's another choice, not just the two standard boring choices we have every couple of years.
Boring.
Boring. Yeah, that boring was wrong. Exciting. How about that? I'm all set.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qually.
Perhaps I was more exciting when I was a Green, but now I'm a boring Democrat. But I paid for that one as well. This is a really challenging question. It's a really good question. As a county commissioner, I would say it is most likely the Mercy House, the first substance abuse recovery center in Adams County. I took a real personal commitment to that because I have had at least one friend who has died from a heroin overdose. And the challenge when you're a county commissioner, and I would probably say as a state legislator too, is there's a lot going on all the time. And you don't stop to figure out always where you're supposed to take credit or what your accomplishments were. You're moving from issue to issue to issue. The challenge is, and one of the things that I excel at, in my opinion, is I can listen and I can learn quickly. The other day, chatting with Lisa Woolkind, and I was wondering why she was supporting me, she started community cares for cats, to spay and neuter cats. And she goes, Marty, well, you were instrumental in starting that. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. She's like, oh, yeah, you were. We met at your office, and you suggested that I talk to this person and that person. I had totally forgotten the conversation because it was just she had a problem. I was helping her solve it. She solved the problem. I did not. So it's hard to go around and take credit for some of these projects because so often it's also so many other people working together to get things done. So if I had to pick, I'd have to say the Mercy House, but I would rather the question be, what have you done so far? Because there's some things coming along the horizon that I think are going to be significant for Adams County.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qually. Next question. A proposed amendment to the Pennsylvania Constitution states Pennsylvanians have no rights to an abortion, no exceptions. How would you vote on this issue? Mr. Moul, we'll start with you.
Well, I'm going to start by correcting you, Alex.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm going to do it right now.
Yeah.
Let me just pull out my little paper here so that we can get the question correct.
Yeah.
An amendment adding a new section 30 to Article 1, providing that the Constitution does not grant a right to a taxpayer-funded abortion or any other right relating to abortion. This question that will be on your ballot in the spring simply codifies what's already being done. We already don't pay for abortions unless there's a jeopardy of the health of the mother or child in utero. That's what it does, okay? So when my opponent sits here and says, this question's going to take your right away to an abortion. This could pass today and nothing would change. Absolutely nothing. It only says that the taxpayers are not on the hook if you get yourself pregnant and you decide to terminate that pregnancy and there's no health issues involved. That's what this says. So the mantra that's been going out mainly from the Democrats, and you see it on TV, we're going to try and, Dr. Oz is going to eliminate your abortion. He couldn't anyway. But this bill has nothing to do with your rights of having an abortion. Nobody's taking that away. I think I answered the question and corrected you at the same time.
Thank you very much. I don't have anything in front of me, but if I did get that wrong, I do apologize. So we'll move on to Mr. Belliveau.
So, abortion is a private medical decision between a patient and a doctor. The government has no business in legislating people's bodies. Abortion is a decisive issue that most people have a lot of common ground on, but is used as political theater. If they really cared, they would have solved this years ago when they originally brought Roe v. Wade into law. The problem that I find with abortion is extremes on both sides that I don't agree with the far left and far right. It should not be promoted or subsidized by the government either.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qually.
I will never vote for a bill, a resolution, a memo, and anything that takes this right away from women. I believe that this amendment is the tip of the spear. And you are fooling yourselves if you think that this is just a bland amendment. This is intentionally crafted to begin the process to completely gut Roe versus Wade and to take the choice away from a woman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qually. Next question. What are your thoughts on the state's current right-to-know law, and do you believe that changes should be made? Mr. Qually, we'll start with you.
All right, that's one I didn't see coming. So the right-to-know law is an issue that we deal with a lot, and it is a challenge because you come to the county, you want some information. We are required, if we have a document, to provide it to you. Same thing with municipalities. Government is under a standard that no other institutions really are. You can't do this for your doctors. You can't do this with anything else. It's really government focused. And the public does have a right to know how decisions are being made. Absolutely. Tying up staff because a document doesn't exist. They don't believe that we're not hiding something. We currently are getting, on a weekly basis, right-to-know requests from, what's his name, the My Pillow guy, his supporters that are constantly saying, do you do this, do that? And it's becoming too much. It's a huge burden. When you're talking about a county, we have staff for this. When you're talking about a small municipality, they don't have the staff to deal with this, and they're putting themselves in a serious amount of legal jeopardy. I think the laws we have right now are good. I think if you want transparency, there are other ways to require that, not just the right-to-know request, because that's really just looking for paper and documents.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. We'll move to you.
The right-to-know law was one of those laws that we passed years ago with good intentions, but it had some, it found itself to have some problems, which my opponent just explained. It created a lot of phishing. People fishing for information, especially when you get down to municipal level, and they inundate some of our local municipalities with paperwork. And it can be costly, time-consuming, and these companies do what it takes to try and get information so they know who to solicit to do business. And we did it with the intention of everybody has a right to know what's going on in their government. It's a transparency thing, but it does need some correcting to stop the phishing that's going on. Outside of that, there's really not a whole lot to say.
Thank you very much. Finally, Mr. Belliveau.
Nothing should be done in a darker night with government. It needs to be all out there for everyone to see. Nothing hidden, nothing done in secrecy. So I completely support that. And other than that, I'm really not too familiar with that.
Thank you very much. Next question. What are your views on making public dollars eligible to fund students' private education? Mr. Belliveau.
I believe the money should follow the student. And the monopoly.
I'm sorry, Mr. Belliveau, and can you stop the timer? Can you just hold your mic up? Are you all picking him up?
No.
Thank you very much. If you could restart the timer, I'd appreciate it.
In education, I believe the money should follow the student. The monopoly on government schools need to be corrected. The more competition we have, the better. And if that money is following a student to public school, charter school, homeschooling, it will help education overall. Yeah, what was the other part of the question?
What are your views on making public dollars eligible to fund students' private education?
Okay, then I agree with that, okay.
All right, Mr. Qually.
I would like to see public dollars stay with public education, and I am saying that as someone who has gone to Catholic school his entire life. And I don't want to say I still feel guilty for everything, but when you go to Catholic school for grade school, high school, and college, so my parents, they paid for our education separate from the tax dollars. They still paid their property taxes because you've got to strengthen public education. If you're siphoning money off of public education into private education, then the people who have the least money are going to suffer the most. And we don't want that. If you want to have a stronger economy locally, we've got to improve our workforce. To improve your workforce, you need to have educated students coming out of your schools. You need to have trade schools based in public education. If you lose that, we're going to lose the workforce that we need to get through this, right now, this recession, through the inflation, get to a point where we are a stronger local community. And you keep siphoning money out of public schools, you're not going to get that. The wealthy are going to get a better education. They're going to have more access to resources, which has been the story of education in America. We can't start doing that more and more today. It's going to cripple us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul.
I think what you're talking about here is what we call school choice. And to some degree, we already have school choice. We have EITC program, we have charter schools, we have cyber charters. Whether you think they're good or bad, not for me to decide, it's for the parents to decide. So if you have parents who don't have much means as far as financial means and living in a school district that's failing, do we want to force them to send their children to a failing school? Or do we want to give them the choice to have their taxes or the taxes from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania go to assist their child to go to a school that they feel might be better for their child? Be it a trade school, be it another public school, or be in any school as long as they're getting education or being trained. How dare we look at that parent and say, no, because you're poor and you live in the ghetto, your kid has to go to that school who has been failing and there's crime going on in the school and drugs and all that, and they just want to get their kid out. How dare we look at that parent and say, nope, your kid has to go there. So, yeah, I think we need to figure out a different way to get kids the education that their parents want them to have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. Many industrial solar farms are being proposed for South Central Pennsylvania. What steps, if any, can the legislature take to assure municipalities don't have the burden of removing the materials, including hazmat, if they are abandoned or cease operations? Mr. Moul, we'll start with you.
It's a municipal issue. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania does not tell municipalities, townships, or boroughs what they can and can't do with solar panels. You're right. In 25 years, 30 years, whenever it is, those things are going to fail. And somebody needs to get rid of it. But that's why we have attorneys that represent municipalities to say, if you're going to have this, you're going to need to bond it. The company that puts the solar field in, that's renting the land to build their solar field, they need to put up a bond so that when it's time to clean it up, it's guaranteed that the funds will be there to clean it up if they fail to do so. That's why you have attorneys. But this is not a state issue as to forcing somebody to clean up their land. This is definitely a municipal issue.
Thank you very much. Mr. Belliveau, your answer, please.
I'm going to pass on that one. I'm not familiar with that. Yeah.
Fair enough. Mr. Qually, you do not get his 2 minutes. I just want to clarify that.
Well,
Can I have them?
well, now I feel like I need to phone a friend real quick. No, and I am going to agree that this is a local control issue. This is Pennsylvania. While some people think that the municipal system we have in Pennsylvania, being a commonwealth, is a feudal system that doesn't work, one of the things I do like about it is it does encourage partnerships and encourages municipalities to work together. Now, in this particular issue, again, it is going to be a municipal issue, but what happened a lot over the past few years was municipalities just weren't ready for this. It was the same thing as when casinos came out. There wasn't any municipal code to cover it, so they were scrambling to catch up. And absolutely right, you have a bond, you have an agreement with the developer who's putting in a solar farm to say that after so many years, you are responsible for the removal. And that's just smart with any industry. We have plenty of industries in Pennsylvania that are not producing renewable energy, that are not being held to that standard, that have polluted our environment and have not been forced to clean it up. So we do have to not just talk about solar, we have to talk about the other ones as well. But at the county level, one of the things we do to help municipalities is, even the county, we are not in charge of municipal government. They are in charge of different things than we are, but we can work with them. So some of the smaller municipalities will create draft ordinances. And we have done work on solar projects to say, you don't have a current ordinance. Here's something that fits the law in Pennsylvania. You should consider enacting it. So there are ways to help municipalities overcome this burden, because this is a massive challenge right now, mostly just because of the need for energy and our location close to the power grid.
Thank you very much. And for those not taking score at home, I think Mr. Moul and Mr. Qually have each said I agree with him once each. So it's good we're finding some common ground here. All right. Should Pennsylvania move to some sort of user-based model for state police based? Mr. Qually, we'll start with you.
That is a great question, and I don't see any way you can create a user-based system for law enforcement, or people who can't afford the law to come to their house to help them aren't going to call. That is an example of public infrastructure that we need to keep strong. One of the challenges here is you have a few municipalities in Adams County that have their own police forces, and their constituents pay for that. They pay through their taxes. The challenge with the state here is we have very few officers that are in charge of a very large area. One of the new large developments here, Amblebrook, they are in a location that doesn't have municipal police coverage. And so if there's any issues there, we have 2,000 new homes going in, and they don't have a police force. So they have to rely on the state police. I can't see a user-based system as being the solution. If it's going to be about funding state police, it needs to be a state issue. If it's going to be about funding local police, that's up to local residents.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moul.
Yeah, tell a municipality or people that we're going to have a user-based state police force. I think you'd find that they'd get a lot less calls and a lot more crime would go on, because they don't want to be bothered, they don't want to be taxed, and they don't want to be billed. The fact remains is you already paid for the state police once. Whether you're in a township that has its own police, or a borough that has its own police, or whether you live out in one of those townships that my opponent just talked about, you already paid for the state police. To get a bill from them for their services would be double taxation. You'd be paying for them twice. That's unfair, and I have already voted no on that bill. That was Mike Sterler's bill out of Lancaster, and he proposed that, and it's just a bad idea all the way around.
Thank you very much. Mr. Belliveau.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to go towards more of a privatized force to allow people to pay for their own protection, rather than paying into a system where maybe some counties or municipalities just can't afford to have cops. If you have your own private security, they'll come and take care of your needs as you see fit on a per-use basis.
Thank you very much. Another question that drives a little closer to home. What is your position on the Eisenhower Bypass project, Mr. Belliveau?
I don't have an opinion on that. I'll yield my time.
No, you're not yielding your time. You're just giving up your time. No, Mr. Qually, we're going to move to you.
A few years ago, the county took a proactive approach to the Eisenhower Bypass. This has been an issue for decades on the edge of the county around Hanover. And there were a couple farms that were really critical to be preserved around the Chapel area, just north of McSherrystown. And so what we did was we worked with the farmer, and we had funds to preserve the farms, and we excluded a small stretch of land at the bottom of it to try to make it so that if a bypass happened, and still at the time, it was an if. It's been an if for a very long time. And the challenge with transportation planning is you have got to look into the future. You are not planning for roads for today. You are planning for traffic that's going to happen in 20 years. If you don't get ahead of it, you will fall behind it, and we will look just like a lot of urbanized areas. You know, York, think of York. There should be a bypass around York. You're on the bypass. So the county took a proactive approach to say this would be the best location for it. Now it looks like it's going that way. There is some controversy over if all the environmental rules and regulations have been followed. And I do believe that if we are going to be adding streets, adding roads like this, we should be following all the rules that are on the books to make sure that it's done properly, it's done safely, and it's done respectfully of the environment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul.
I think you heard me say just a little while ago that I voted for the fuel tax increase because we needed it, which we did. But that was during the Corbett administration. And I want to say a name, and this is where I will ask somebody to correct me if I get it wrong. The guy that used to be in charge of Adams County Planning, Dick Schmoyer, came to me when I first got into office, and he said, if there's one thing we need you to work on is getting the bypass around McSherrystown. It's getting worse. We need it. Any way you can help out, we need to get it done. So when what became Act 89 came about, Barry Shoke, who was the transportation secretary under Corbett, came to see each and every one of us to drum up votes for his tax increase so that they could fund PennDOT. And one of the things that I said is, if I give you this vote, I need that bypass. We shook hands on it. I was going to vote for it anyway, but might as well get something for it. We shook hands on it. He promised me it would happen. You're going to hear an announcement probably within the next month or so. The last phase, which is the impact phase with the federal government, is happening as we speak. And we should be breaking ground late 24. They should be breaking ground on that project. That's been around since my opponent was in diapers. I moved there out in that neck of the woods 41 years ago, 43 years ago, God, it's been so long. And there were stakes in the field with flags hanging on them back then. That's how long this has been around. And it didn't get any better. It's getting worse. We have more and more people migrating up from the Baltimore-Washington Metroplex, and it's getting to be quite the traffic jam at certain times of the day. It's needed. And I know there's some people that hate my guts for it, but it's something that we need. It's infrastructure, it's needed. So that's how this bypass came to be.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. We're going to go on to our final question. It's more of an open-ended one. There's a lot of talk about how we can ensure free and fair elections. And we kind of touched on this one a little bit earlier. But in terms of mail-in ballots and drop boxes, I just want to hear the candidates' thoughts. So, Mr. Qually, we're going to start with you.
Well, having run a few elections as a county commissioner, we do have free and fair elections. The amount of fraud that you see in the press is exaggerated extremely. I have been in the trenches. I have seen the security that goes into every aspect of the election. I will tell you right now, there is one fraud case, a holdover from 2020 that is being investigated in Adams County. But I don't think the DA is prepared to press any charges, but there is an investigation going on right now. I think sometimes we miss the mark when we talk about election reform. The truth is, the things we need to work on with election reform are campaign finance reform. We are one of the worst states in the nation for allowing people to fund elections. There is literally no limit to what you can raise from an individual in Pennsylvania. In Adams County, the record is a state Supreme Court justice candidate getting $500,000 from one person. That money buys votes. It buys media access. It is unfair. We need to find a way to correct that. We need to come up with term limits. Again, we do not have real term limits in Pennsylvania. We cannot have people camping out forever in office. We need to work on redistricting reform. Right now, we have a system in place that basically allows legislators to pick their districts. Can't do that. We also need to work on, wait, let me think, term limits. Also, and I'm going to preempt Neil on this one, I hope, open primaries. The idea that we have people who are registered to vote, who are independent because they are tired of the two-party system, and they can't vote in a primary and have their voice heard is ridiculous. Most elections are won in the primary because of the way we have gerrymandered Pennsylvania. We've got to fix these things.
Thank you very much, Mr. Qually. Mr. Moul.
All right, you're talking about election reform. Let me take you down memory road for just a little bit. A couple years back, a bill was proposed, Democrat bill, was proposed for mail-in balloting. And we said, oh, wow, don't know if Pennsylvania wants to go quite there yet. But we looked at it. State committee was okay with it. Trump team was okay with it. Most of our legislators were okay with it. And basically, all but a couple votes came out of the House and Senate unanimous. And the governor signed it into law that day. I mean, he didn't wait for the next day. That day, the governor signed it into law. And then 2 months before the election, he and our Secretary of State at the time, Kathy Bookbar, go over and file a petition with SCOPA, which is the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, and they took it up and said, okay, because of COVID, we're going to add drop boxes. We're going to add 3 extra days to get these mail-in ballots in. We're going to take away the signature match, and we're going to ignore the postmarkings. These were the safeguards that were built into it that a lot of the other states have built into their mail-in balloting. Why would the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania take away these safeguards to make sure that mail-in balloting, which we all wanted, mainly our senior citizens didn't want to stand in line for 3 hours to go vote, so they wanted to be able to mail it in. Operative word is there, mail it in. Everybody has a drop box right outside their front door. It's called a mailbox. Mail it in. But they added drop boxes. Why would they do that? Why would they give 3 extra days? Why would they take away the signature match on the application versus the inner envelope? Why would they do that? You tell me if that's fair. And that was the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania that made that ruling that was petitioned upon by the same guy that signed it into law 2 months prior. Think about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moul. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for answering all these questions. And I really...
Neil.
Oh, I'm sorry. I completely apologize.
I don't think he's going to yield that one.
Mr. Belliveau. My apologies, sincerely.
That's okay. All right, so I agree with Marty. Term limits, our founders never intended for career politicians. Gerrymandering is pushing out moderates in molding each district into what the Democrat or Republican wants to maintain power. In open primaries, during primaries, I was outside collecting signatures. I could not vote, so I had to watch everyone coming out and collect signatures to get on a ballot. You know, everyone should be able to vote. It doesn't matter what party you are. Everyone should be allowed to vote. One thing I like to talk about is what hasn't been mentioned is ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting will increase voter engagement by allowing people to vote for the best candidates and minimize lesser two evils voting. Voters rank candidates in order from preference first, second, and third. Votes do not help other voters' top choices will count for the next choice. Ranked choice voting is used for state primary, congressional, and presidential elections in Alaska and Maine, and for local elections for 20 cities. This will get more people involved and vote. What we have now, just picking the lesser two evils, voting against someone, is not working.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belliveau, and I do apologize for
That's
skipping
okay.
you. Well, I want to thank all these gentlemen for coming out and answering the questions we provided to them tonight. I really want to thank the public for submitting them. It was a great response. We are going to move on to closing remarks. Mr. Moul, we will start with you.
All right, I'm going to finish one little tidbit that I started earlier. And like I say, I got back, how much? We got 20 minutes for this?
Two.
Minutes. I could sneeze that long. All right. I won't make this a an issue here, but the making up stories about the way someone else thinks when you're running a campaign is reprehensible. My wife received this in the mail yesterday from my opponent. And one of the things on there that really got my attention is the 16-year incumbent is 100% anti-choice. I'd just like to ask my opponent where you got that information.
From your record, sir.
From my record?
Yeah.
And what
That's-
record might that be?
Bills you've co-sponsored?
I've never co-sponsored a bill that said women don't have the right for an abortion.
Okay. I think we're splitting hairs here.
No,
When you
can
go
split
down that path.
anything you want, but I've
Okay.
never said that.
Okay.
And if you'd have done your homework, you would have read something right out of the York Daily Record, which was an answer to a survey that, and the question was, and this might take a minute or so, okay? The question was, how would you handle legislation regarding abortion? My answer, print it. So if you'd done
Oh,
your
no.
homework, you wouldn't have had to put a lie out here.
That's recent, not your record. That's just
This
recent.
just came yesterday. It's pretty damn recent. So taking any life is unnecessary of preborn is a bad thing. 24 weeks to end a pregnancy in PA is too long. By that time, a baby in the womb is fully developed, can feel pain, can even suck its thumb. To rip a child limb from limb unnecessarily at that stage is barbaric. I would be agreeable to moving the date from 24 weeks to 14 weeks like many other states have done. This would be my compromise. I also agree that there needs to be exceptions for the life and health of the mother and child. So for you to put bad information out is way beneath being a good candidate. We don't tell lies unless you can absolutely confirm them. And this isn't the first time. So the deal with you sending things out like animal cruelty, and ma'am, you need to put the sign down.
Yeah, ma'am, you do need to put the sign down,
So,
and Dan, you
so
also need to
say-
wrap up your thought.
Making people think that I'm cruel to animals. I mean, that's not the way. My parents didn't raise me to be honest and forthcoming and honorable, except when I'm running for election. Then I can be a liar and cheat and tell lies about people. That's not the
Thank
way
you,
we
Dan.
should be running elections in Pennsylvania.
Thank you very much. Mr. Qually, we're going to go to you.
Stating someone's record is not a lie, is not an attack. It's just the facts. And while records may change and opinions may change, sometimes it is for political expediency. All I can say right now, folks, is we have had the same state representative here for 16 years. If you believe that in 2 more years, all these issues we've discussed are going to get better, and these are going to be solved problems, after 16 years of not solving them, by all means, stay with the incumbent. Okay, folks? I'm a Democrat in a district that's 2-to-1 Republican to Democrat. I am looking at every Republican in the room and everyone on TV. Here's the deal. It is up to you to decide if we need change in this district, if we should protect women's rights, if we should protect it for voting rights. Neil's absolutely right. We have a lot of people who cannot vote in this community, and we have an amendment coming up that can make it even less people to vote. The less people vote, the less strong our democracy is. We need people to vote, folks. So to the Republicans out there, give me a chance. 2 years is all I'm asking. If I can't solve some of these problems or make some definite benefits for Adams County residents, it is in your hands to vote me out. I am not disillusioned in that the Republicans decide who gets elected. I love my Democratic friends, I love my independent friends, but that's reality. I can do the math. Give me a chance, 2 years. If I don't do the job, get rid of me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belliveau. I did not forget you this time. Please,
I appreciate that.
closing remarks.
Wow. The mudslinging that goes on in politics nowadays is kind of crazy. I was reading the back and forth on Gettysburg Times of letters to the editor that I was writing in favor of Marty and others, and Dan. I just shake my head because that's not. They're trying to divide us by being so divisive. So with that, I thank you. Thanks again to the sponsors and moderators of this town hall and everyone in attendance tonight. Libertarians are vehemently anti-war, with the Russian and China escalations more important than ever to protect our National Guard. I want to dedicate my closing statement to calling Representative Moul and Mr. Qually to support Defend the Guard legislation. State legislatures have an essential civic obligation to their voters to demand the federal government adhere to congressional war powers, as mandated by Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. Without an official declaration of war by the U.S. Congress, states have a duty to withhold their troops from active service, active combat. The sole objective of Defend the Guard legislation is to obligate the federal government to obey the U.S. Constitution before sending our sons and daughters to fight more wars. So in a few weeks, District 91 has an opportunity to make change for the better. But you will have to decide if you are ready to change that by sending a Libertarian to Harrisburg, because as we see with history, the Republicans and Democrats can't control spending or get things done for the people. The only thing they're truly good at is telling you what to do. I appreciate your consideration, and for more information, visit my website, neilforpa91.com.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you very much for everyone for coming out here tonight. I really appreciate the three candidates sharing their views, and thank you very much to Gettysburg College and the college's Public Policy Department, Political Science Department, and the Eisenhower Institute for partnering with the Gettysburg Connection on tonight's event. I close all of these debates the same way. Telling you to vote on November 8th is pointless. You all are here because you care. You all are watching on community media because you care. I know you are going to go out and vote on November 8th or mail it in before then. What we need you to do is to find at least 2 people who will not vote and get them to the polls, because our turnout numbers are terrible. So please, let's encourage voter turnout in this county. I don't care if your friends are on the opposite side of the party or opposite side of the aisle as you, get them to the polls. That's what counts in America, so please do so. Also, please take time to get to know every single candidate on your ballot. Our county elections team has a great website including sample ballots, and that's at www.adamscounty.us. If you are curious, as you know, these 3 are going to be on your ballot, but if you're curious as to who else is going to be on your ballot, if you have not received it yet, please go to www.adamscounty.us and review those candidates so you are making an informed decision before November 8th. And once again, thank you very much for coming out tonight. I encourage you all to read the Gettysburg Connection daily and support it if you can. I'm Alex Hayes. Have a great evening. Gentlemen, can we get a picture of the students and the candidates before for the college's files?